Hey everybody, it's Party Elite here with another episode of Total Breakdown. Today we have one of the finals games from the 3rd Lord's Hordes tournament, and we're going to see 13 Crusader 13 bring the Bretonnians of Bordelot to the field against Scrible's Beastmen. Also, make sure you check out the first link in the description down below. From jokes in the comments and a hilarious Reddit post almost a year ago, an idea was born, and Party Elite Bingo is now an actual thing. So visit the link, generate your randomized bingo card, and share your results in the comments. Alright, let's get started. We begin, of course, with talk of composition and deployment, and as you can see, both sides trying some pretty cheeky things this battle. We start, of course, with Bretonnia. Alberic de Bordelot is up in the air, taking command. He's brought with him a Damsel of Life on foot, as well as a Grêle Reliquée to provide some support. We have a strange front line over here, a pair of peasant mob, behind them a pair of men-at-arms, and then on the left over here, we've got these men-at-arms with polearms, a pair of them, and on the right as well, a pair of men-at-arms with polearms, and then sort of a rear guard over here of men-at-arms with polearms as well. So a lot of anti-large armor-piercing capabilities on either flank and protecting the rear here that will help these peasant bowmen, 4 units of them, stay alive if anything decides to come in from the rear. And on this side over here, you can see we've got 4 units of Knights of the Realm tucked away in the trees, able to sneak forward and hoping to maybe get some flanking maneuvers in should the Beastmen push over and get some engagements happening over here. Now let's take a look at the Beastmen, a much wider layout for the Beastmen as you can see, and there are going to be a couple of surprises waiting for the Bretonnians in the trees as well. We have over here Malagor the Dark Omen in charge, and so you can expect at least one more Cygor on the field than we're starting with, and the one Cygor we're starting with is actually the Eye of Morsleb. That's the Regiment of Renown. Up front you can see a pair of Ungor Raiders, of course, able to stalk forward and get some shots in nice and early, while over here we have these Ungor Spearmen herd with shields, trying to protect them if anything comes too close too early. We also have another unit of Ungor Spearmen herd with shields back here, and another one over here, so prepared against any Bretonnian cavalry, while we have these Gore herd with shields hoping to close the gaps and of course get those melee engagements started on their terms. In the woods we have another unit of Ungor Spearmen herd with shields, and we have a pair of Minotaurs with great weapons. These Minotaurs are going to be absolutely vital, armor-piercing and anti-large. Unfortunately, though, they aren't hidden because Minotaurs can't hide in the trees, so they have been spotted already, but you can see up front over here a pair of Senegor with throwing axes tucked away in the trees, and all the way to the side over here, a pair of Chaos Warhounds tucked away in the trees as well. So a lot of hidden units from both sides of the field, potentially engaging, coming in with flanking maneuvers, getting some damage done. Let's see how it all breaks down. Immediately you can see Alberic is pushing forward, maybe hoping to get some scouting done. Of course, Ungor Raiders are able to stalk forward, so maybe hoping to spot that, but take a look at that beautiful micromanagement, dodging that shot from the Cygor nice and early, making sure that Alberic doesn't take any damage when he doesn't need to. And you can see the Beastmen as well, sort of creeping forward ever so slowly. We've got these Senegor with throwing axes pushing in, hoping to maybe get some shots into Alberic nice and early, get some damage in there, while over here you can see we've got these Knights of the Realm just creeping down the woods. They're not aware of these Chaos Warhounds just yet, so they're just moving forward, unsure of what awaits them among the trees. And you can see over here as well, Alberic just being very careful, not pushing too far forward, not wanting to get shot down as these Senegors close the gaps. And now on the left over here, you can see these Chaos Warhounds have been spotted, while on the right, you can see another shot from that giant Cygor there, coming in and doing a touch of damage to these men-at-arms with polearms. Not too much hurt being done just yet, but a good idea. They're trying to shut down some of this anti-large armor-piercing capability. Alberic up front, meanwhile, you can see does pop Foe Seeker, hoping to close gaps a little bit faster, as over here, these Knights of the Realm have managed to stumble upon these Chaos Warhounds, and these Chaos Warhounds are going to try and back away into safety, but they react a little too slowly as these Knights of the Realm are able to close the gap and get a fair bit of damage done, especially to morale on that right unit of Chaos Warhounds. And you can see Alberic as well trying to close the gap over here, while the Cygor continues to toss rocks, continues to try and get some damage done into these men-at-arms with polearms. And take a look at that glorious hit there, a great deal of damage being done finally, dropping the men-at-arms with polearms health to about 50%, almost 75%, so a good hit there, great deal of work done. And at the same time, in the trees over here, you can see these Chaos Warhounds forced to fall back as these Knights of the Realm are making very quick work of them. Alberic still trying to close the gap over here and intercept them. And take a look at this beautiful micromanagement. Great awareness there, just pulling these Knights out from the trees to make sure they're not suffering as much of a speed debuff and trying to close that gap and intercept these Chaos Warhounds. And in come some shots from the Cygor now into the trees over here, trying to hit, I think, some of these Knights of the Realm, hoping to reduce their capabilities and drop them a little bit because they will be a very threatening unit moving forward as well. And you can see now Alberic turns around and pushes in to try and charge into some of these Chaos Warhounds. And actually charging into this unit over here, their flag's back here. A little confusing, but you can see almost instantaneously getting these guys to waver, terrifying them, and getting them to rout. So wonderfully done over there, and at the same time you can see that Cygor continues to throw its magical rocks and does a touch of damage there into the Knights of the Realm, while over here we have these Senegor with their throwing axes moving in, able to toss their axes and pull away into safety. They are much faster than these Knights of the Realm, of course, so they're able to pull away into safety should these Knights of the Realm decide to give chase. Over here, meanwhile, you can see This rock is going to do a lot of hurt as it goes crashing through these peasant bowmen as they try to get into position over here. A great deal of damage being done. They're dropping their health to about 50%, and of course with that comes a drop in morale as well. Now the peasant bowmen are still standing strong. They're moving forward, and they're going to be very essential in shutting down some of these Senegor with throwing axes, and for example the Cygor back here as well. We do have over here Alberic able to return to the fray. As you can see, these Chaos Warhounds have been made to rout, maybe hoping that they'll be driven off the field as they are very close to the edge, and at the same time over here you can see we're getting some shots from the Cygor into these Knights of the Realm, while these peasant bowmen are now firing away at the Senegor with throwing axes. And take a look at this. There is a second Cygor, as we sort of predicted, on the field, able to throw its rocks as well, getting its rocks off. I didn't want to say that, but here we are. And at the same time, we have the Eye of Morsleep getting another great throw with its rock, just crashing right through multiple units over here, devastating these men-at-arms with polearms as well as these peasant bowmen. And that's going to more or less be it for at least one of these units of peasant bowmen. Take a look at their morale drop so quickly right now. They don't really want to stick around and fight, but they're able to get a couple volleys off perhaps into the Senegor with throwing axes as the Knights of the Realm try to give chase. And over here as well, you can see we've got the other Cygor now throwing rocks into the peasant mob as well as the men-at-arms over here. And you can see these wavering peasant bowmen here not really wanting to stick and fight, not really wanting to stay around and get hit by more rocks from the Cygor. And at the distance here you can see the Senegor with throwing axes have managed to pull away, and in comes another rock from the Eye of Morsleep. And take a look at that, just absolutely devastating these two units of peasant bowmen. Wonderfully done there. There's the rout on one of them, the other one just barely manages to stick and fight, and now the Bretonnian forces are moving forward ever so slowly, maybe not so confidently in some cases, while Alberic is pushing forward over here to provide some support as well. And you can see the other Cygor getting some rocks in as well, doing some damage to these men-at-arms over here, while back here we actually have these Chaos Warhounds from this distance pulling back and willing to get engaged once more. So it was a bad idea actually letting them go, letting them return to the fight. A fair bit of confidence, I think, that they were going to completely rout and leave the field. Meanwhile, up front over here, you can see we actually have some shots coming in from the peasant bowmen, the ones that are willing to stick around at least, hoping to fire away at these Ungor Spearmen herd. Unfortunately, they do have their shields up and they are able to keep themselves alive, but then they turn around and they eat a fair bit of damage while the Eye of Morsleep continues to throw rocks into these clumps of these Knights of the Realm. These two, by the way, now pulling back over here, while up front over here, Earthblood goes down to try and replenish some of the lost health over here, these men-at-arms and these peasant mob, as these charges are about to go down. And you can see we over here have these peasant bowmen turning around, hoping to get some shots in as these charges fall through now, and the men-at-arms and peasant mob engage the Gore Herd over here. We get some range shots coming into this unit of Gore Herd with shields, and at the same time we've got Alberic now turning around, getting a beautiful rear charge into the backs of these Gore Herd with shields, getting them pinned in place using the peasant mob and the men-at-arms to just hold them in place, and Alberic comes through and does a fair bit of damage there, charging right into their sides, dropping their health, dropping their morale, hoping to very quickly win that engagement so that the Bretonnian melee units aren't caught in an engagement for far too long. Back here at the same time, you can see we've got the Senegor with throwing axes once more, sort of venturing forth, throwing some axes into these Knights of the Realm, hoping to cause some damage and hoping to keep them at bay. Again, the Knights of the Realm are significantly slower than the Senegor with throwing axes, so the Senegor are pretty confident in pushing in, throwing some axes, and then leaving. And you can see over here as well, we've got these Knights of the Realm now looking for an opportunity to get involved wherever they need to be involved, while the other Cygor continues to throw rocks, I think trying to hit some of these Knights of the Realm. In fact, up front over here you can see Alberic and his peasant bowman, or rather his peasant mob and his men-at-arms doing very quick work of these Gore Herd with shields, while now you can see we have these Knights of the Realm pulling away into safety as the Cygor continues to target them. They want to make sure they're not involved in clumps. Back here at the same time, you can see we've got the Senegor with throwing axes pulling back into safety as those peasant bowmen turned around and started firing away, and all of these Chaos Warhounds now as well regrouping, able to push in. The rear of the Bretonnian forces have been largely exposed, and you can see over here we've got the peasant bowmen firing away wherever possible, trying to get some damage in, while the Eye of Morsleep continues to get a fair bit of damage done alongside the regular Cygor, just trying to shut down these Knights of the Realm, the threatening unit that they are. But at the same time, you can see we've got some routes going on over here. These Gore Herd with shields have completely given up on the fight. They are pulling back into safety. Back here, the Senegor with their throwing axes continue to tempt these Knights of the Realm as in comes some shots from the Eye of Morsleep as well. And up front, once more, we have these Gore Herd with shields now pushing forward, trying to charge in, I think, into these men-at-arms, while all of those range shots come in from the peasant bowmen, hoping to cut them down before they're actually able to close these gaps over here. And at the same time, still, you can see that Cygor firing away, hoping to get some damage into these Knights of the Realm. Again, a very threatening unit, the Knights of the Realm. They are anti-large, so they do need to be shut down. But you can see at the back there, the Eye of Morsleep here is very low on ammunition, just has about 25% of ammo left, and the Cygor that was summoned to the field is already at about 25% health, because of course, being summoned, it will slowly degenerate. Up front, though, you can see the Gore Herd with shield. They haven't taken too much damage. They're less 25%, but they get some clean charges into these men-at-arms, hoping to shut them down real quickly, while over here we've got these Ungor Raiders firing away at these peasant mob, and the peasant mob now trying to close the gap, hoping to prevent some of that range support, obviously shut it down. Even if they don't win the melee engagement, they'll at least prevent that firewall. Back here you can see we have the men-at-arms with polearms pushing in to the Senegor with throwing axes and immediately reacting by pulling back. Very good awareness there, very good awareness, I have to say, to just pull them back as soon as they got engaged there. They're trying to get into safety, but the peasant bowmen, you can see, are turning around and firing away, getting a fair bit of damage over here, while up front the Ungor Raiders continue to fire away at these peasant mob again, just hoping to drop them before they're able to close the gap. But good thinking over here from the Bretonnians. If they can close the gap, again, it doesn't matter if they win or lose the engagement against the Ungor Raiders. They'll prevent the shots from coming in for perhaps long enough to result in a win. And you can see over here, Alberic de Bortolo is very careful about where he decides to dive in. These Minotaurs with great weapons have finally made it to the front of the field over here. There's one over here and one over here now, protecting these flanks, able to push in and provide support wherever needed. And of course, whether it's against cavalry or infantry, the Minotaurs will do quite well. Unless, of course, they're anti-large, I suppose. But even then, we've got these men-at-arms with polearms just asking to be picked off by these Minotaurs with great weapons. We'll take a look at this. Alberic is flying around looking for a place to dive in. He's a very powerful unit, but unfortunately, he doesn't have anywhere he can be right now. And these Knights of the Realm as well aren't really necessarily able to push in towards those Minotaurs, but you can see the peasant bowmen are trying to take care of those guys, trying to turn around and open shots, while off in the distance, you can see the Eye of More Sleep continues to try and shut down these two units of Knights of the Realm. Back here, we have these Chaos Warhounds still tucked away in the distance, hoping to find an opening, I think, to push in between these two men-at-arms with polearms, perhaps, and shut down all of these peasant bowmen. And up front, you can see once more we have Earthblood going down, trying to keep that very front line alive here as the peasant bowmen continue to fire away at these Minotaurs with great weapons. Again, just slowly ticking away at their health bar there, hoping to get some damage in, while the Knights of the Realm over here, again, pushing forward, getting a nice charge on this right flank, throwing back some of these Goreherd with shields, trying to get some damage in there to just hopefully break that right flank, free up some of these men-at-arms with polearms so they can actually provide support against some of these large enemy units. And take a look at this. I don't know if you noticed it, but there is a third Cygor on the field. So before the second Cygor with 68 kills even falls, it's about to, but it still has over 1,300 health left. Before it even dies off, we have another Cygor on the field already. And you can see back here, Malagor the Dark Omen very cleverly is just hiding in the trees. There's no reason for him to expose himself. There's no reason for him to get spotted so that Alberic can push in. And maybe it would have been wise for Alberic, in fact, to have gone into these woods just to see if it could spot Beastmen leadership and shut it down, because he could, of course, make very quick work of Malagor the Dark Omen, but unfortunately that is not the case, and now we have 3 Cygors on the field as Alberic decides to dive into this clump in the center over here, get some of these Goreherd with shields to pull back into safety, while the Ungor Spearmen herd over here are still engaged in combat. But now you can see the peasant bowmen firing away at some of these Ungor Raiders, and that's an absolutely wonderful call here. Eliminate enemy range support, and unfortunately it looks like these guys, maybe a misclick has sent them forward, and they're going to maybe engage in melee, so unfortunate there for these Ungor Raiders. They do get terrified off as they get far too close to Alberic, and over here you can see as well, we've got the Senegor with throwing axes again, looking for an opportunity to get involved, to get engaged, and wonderful movement here with these men-at-arms with polearms, just pushing in and closing this gap over here, lest something push through. And over here you can see we have some Chaos Warhounds looking, prodding, poking, looking for an opportunity to push through. These Senegor with throwing axes as well, now being shot at by these peasant bowmen, just hoping to drop them. And take a look at that, down to 50% health on both of them nearly, and just trying to pull these guys back into safety again. They're a very important unit. They're getting some shots into these men-at-arms with polearms. Ultimately they push through the gap over here, get some last few shots into these men-at-arms, and then pull back into safety. They're not going to be shot at anymore, hopefully, at this distance, and the peasant bowmen need to maybe focus on some other targets, while these Chaos Warhounds, again, looking for a gap to get involved, but these Knights of the Realm manage to intercept and rout them off. So wonderfully done there, and you can see the peasant bowmen continue to fire away at the Senegor because they hadn't been pulled back far enough, so another order comes through to make them go even further back. And you can see over here as well, these Minotaurs with great weapons pulling back into safety, making sure that the peasant bowmen aren't able to focus on them instead. And the Eye of More Sleep now has pushed forward into melee. Out of ammunition, not much else to do, but of course, even in melee, that's a lot of weapon strength, so just pushing into these men-at-arms with polearms, while back here you can see a shot from the newly summoned Cygor coming down and absolutely obliterating that poor, unfortunate knight. Just picked him off from a distance, and you'd assume a Cygor doesn't have very good depth perception, but let's assume that that knight was the target, and that was actually rather wonderful. Great shot there. But now we only have 2 Cygors once more on the field. The fact that this one was raised has led to its demise, of course, but 2 Cygors still very scary, of course, and here these Chaos Warhounds are about to get shut down as these Knights of the Realm chase them down and hopefully rout them off the field once and for all. Up front now you can see the Cygor is the focus of a lot of peasant bowmen attention, while these Senegor with throwing axes, I think, are trying to intercept and get involved over here to maybe stop these peasant bowmen from firing away. But take a look at this Cygor just completely drop the Eye of More Sleep, is being focused down on. Men-at-arms with polearms, of course, Earthblood goes down, so does Scroll of Shielding, keeping these guys alive. All that range fire coming in as well, dropping the Eye of More Sleep's health and morale. morale significantly. Great call over there, and now you can see these Minotaurs with their great weapons are about to get involved as well, and a bad call over here with Alberic de Bordelot. This is a terrible call. In comes Alberic. He pushes into these Ungor Spearmen herd, I think in the hopes of scaring them off, but the Minotaurs with great weapons are right there. They're going to turn around. They are, again, anti-large and armor-piercing. They're going to turn around, and they're going to start beating on Alberic. And take a look at that. Beautifully done. Warp Gaze goes down on Bretonnian leadership. He is at 50% health. He is now pinned in place thanks to Warp Gaze, and there is this clump of anti-large armor-piercing units right there. So a terrible call once more, and you can see he's just stuck there. There's nothing he can do. He's going to start losing health very quickly. In comes Foe Seeker, but just a little too late. Warp Gaze is keeping him pinned in place, and these Minotaurs with great weapons unfortunately pull back over there. They should have been pushed in as well to just finish Alberic off, but you can see off goes Warp Gaze. He's able to turn around and take to the air, but very low on health. He has just 25% health left, so in comes almost immediately a regrowth cast, which is a good call there. Good regeneration given through regrowth, trying to keep Alberic alive, of course, and the Peasant Bowman once more, I think, firing away at the Senegal with throwing axes, hoping to eliminate them once and for all. Over here as well, you can see these Minotaurs looking for an opportunity to dive in somewhere, while over here you can see these Ungor Spearmen herd are being eliminated. We've got another rout going on over here, rather a shatter. Alberic dives in over here as well, getting another rout, kicking in some terror as well, while back here these Chaos Warhounds are actually finishing off these Knights of the Realm. Wonderfully done there. They're able to push through though and chase into some of these Peasant Bowmen and prevent some of that range support from coming in, and you can see Alberic again just looking for an opportunity to dive in wherever possible, bring in that fear, bring in that terror, and absolutely tear apart these Beastmen front lines. At the same time, the Minotaurs with great weapons are able to push in, I think giving chase to Alberic here, hoping to shut down that Bretonnian leadership, and the Knights of the Realm do get caught out, and so they can get a little bit of damage over there, but the Minotaurs unfortunately now surrounded by these men-at-arms with polearms. They are all ranked up as well, so they're going to start dropping these Minotaurs very quickly down to about 25% health, about 25% morale as well, and Alberic, they're tempting fate, I think a little bit, maybe diving in there, maybe thinking about it, and then ultimately deciding to dive into these Minotaurs with great weapons, and they do take a fair bit of damage in that charge again. Alberic is also anti-large and armor-piercing, so he is able to do a lot. A full surround over here, Knights of the Realm, again anti-large as well, men-at-arms with polearms as well, anti-large and armor-piercing. Great picks over here, great superiority being showcased over here. In comes the rout on these Minotaurs with great weapons. They are giving up on the fight, but in come these Centaurs with their throwing axes, hoping to charge in and eliminate this clump on the Bretonnian side as well. Unfortunately, it is far too little, far too late. In comes some terror for these Centaurs as well. These Chaos Warhounds now pushing in, hoping to eliminate, I think, these Peasant Bowmen. In comes an Earthblood in the central clump. Beautifully done there, keeping these guys alive. And the Chaos Warhounds do manage to get into the Peasant Bowmen, but take a look at this immediate response. Everything basically turns around from Bretonnia and just dives in on not only these Chaos Warhounds, but also these Minotaurs with great weapons. And those Minotaurs are not going to have a good time as they get almost fully surrounded. They get completely destroyed and wrecked. Over here as well, you can see the Eye of Morsleep continues to try and beat away at some of the various Bretonnians, but the men-at-arms with polearms are standing strong. They're poking and prodding, trying to take the Eye of Morsleep down, while the Ungor Raiders over here continue to fire away as well, hoping to get enough morale damage to maybe get these guys to rout and give up on the fight. Over here as well, we've got the Ungor Spearmen herd pushing in with a rear charge as well from the Senegal with throwing axes, hoping to scare off some of these Bretonnian forces over here, and you can see though the Minotaurs with great weapons that are sort of the cornerstone of this engagement are very quick to give up on the fight. They're going to drop their flags, very low on health, very low on morale. There comes the rout, the routing Cygor as well. Back here, Malagor the Dark Omen, still full health, still willing to fight, but that is simply not going to be enough. A glorious day for the lady. To be honest, despite the results screen, I'm still not sure who actually won that one. An absolutely amazing showcase by both parties, two massive armies clashing on a very interesting battlefield. We saw encirclements, we saw skirmishing, we saw 3 Cygors, and most importantly, I think we saw just a handful of lapses in judgment and some great capitalization on said lapses, resulting in Bretonnia taking the day. As always, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more Total War content and keep sending in those battle replays. I do think it's one of the best ways to learn, and it's always nice to see such great battles from the community. I'd also like to thank all of my patrons for supporting this channel every month. It makes a huge difference, and coming up there are a few new perks to my Patreon as well, so make sure you check it out if you aren't already a patron, and if you are a patron, give it a look in case you haven't been updated. It does help keep the channel alive, and I really appreciate all the support I get. Also, thank you all very much for watching, of course, and as always, I'll see you on the battlefield.